So I had a fascinating conversation with Raghuram Pranjul at the World Economic Forum about manufacturing and electronics. And his argument, and I'm curious to know what you think, is that PLIs is basically subsidy for capitalists, that there is very little value add happening. And while, of course, manufacturing is growing up, there's nothing to tom-tom about in terms of it being a big achievement for the government, that this is money that could be more wisely spent in things like higher education, produce more engineers. That has a higher ROI than just giving money through subsidies to corporates.
My sense is the PLI scheme is an experiment worth doing. We are trying to sort of, look into futuristic sectors and ensure that, India at least tries, right? And the other reason why I think we should do it is because it's actually not very costly. Barring the semiconductors, it's just over 2 trillion rupees spread over 5 to 6 years, which is our 1-year fertilizer subsidy bill. So it's not that much money. And even within that, the money was made possible by retiring some old export subsidy schemes. So there was smart thinking done there. And I think this is an experiment worth doing. But is this enough? Will this change India's, future? Will it make it a big manufacturing hub? I don't think. I think a lot more needs to be done. Most importantly, I think overall business climate needs to improve in a way that small firms can grow and become large over time.
Samiran, especially on the issue of value-add, opinion seems very divided amongst pundits on the efficacy of production-linked incentives. Are they working in your view, or are they not working in the way they should?
So, Rahul, in a very broad sense, economists will always argue against subsidies in any context, whether it is the context of in manufacturing or it is the context of food subsidy. Economists have a natural bias against subsidy. But having said that, the way to think about PLI, in my view, is that is it going to be enough to move companies who were thinking about investing in other geographies to come to India? Is that going to give that extra bit of leverage to us? And in that context, it's very important that the first few PLI schemes are success, because I can tell you from my experience that a lot of foreign companies are thinking about India, but they are also fighting a perception battle that in the past, investing in India has been difficult. So if there are some companies which can show that, yes, India has changed and it's possible to do business in India and be profitable, then a lot of players who are waiting in the wings can also join into the scheme. While Pranjul is making a very valid point that the extent of subsidy is still very limited. It's less than 1% of GDP by our current GDP standards. The critical thing is that the sectors on which PLI is there is also less than 1% of GDP. So even if that less than 1% of GDP grows at a very fast pace, that's not going to move the overall GDP growth needle. So either we have to think of this as an experiment which brings in more investment in other non-PLI sectors, or we will have to expand PLI to a vast many sectors for us to see the whole macro impact of PLI. Otherwise, what's going to happen is that this year we will be discussing PLI. Next year, when you are going to call me, you are going to find another acronym, and we will keep on discussing that acronym without having the continuity that we require.